Not many people get to see their life story made into a Hollywood movie, but that's what happened to my next guest. In 2003, his hiking trip made headlines around the world. Now his amazing story is the subject of the movie 127 Hours, starring James Franco. Please welcome Aron Raslton. Welcome, my friend.
Hey.
And congratulations on your film and the book. And this is, obviously, the film is adapted from this book, Between a Rock and a Hard Place. Probably the best adaptation of a book I've ever seen.
Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you.
When did you see the movie, and what did you feel like when you saw
it? The first time I saw it was actually, they brought me in with a test audience, a group of just normal people that are going to see a movie and give some feedback on an early cut, and they had me undercover so I wouldn't be sniffed out. But that hat and sunglasses and a bag of popcorn covering my arm, and they sneaked me in, and I was crying from within maybe the first 15 minutes because it was emotionally, it was good. It was not because it was bad.
Yeah. Oh my God, they've ruined my life. Horrible. I mean, when you watch that amputation scene, does it seem surreal? Does it? What do you feel when you see it?
Well, that first time, the most surreal thing was that everybody else in the theater is just like. And it's very intense, as it was for me to be doing that, to be getting out of there. But for me, I'm watching, and I lived it. So now I'm watching a production of it, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, wow, this is really well done, as I'm snacking on my popcorn. I realized I was munching quite loudly, almost distracting people. So I'm like, okay. But
I mean, tell, if people are not familiar, it's 2003. What, you go out for a hike? Tell people the story here.
Yeah, I was out on a day hike, just a lark. Really, it's kind of like the way you might take your motorcycle out. For
no,
a
but
drive
you're a
up,
really experienced hiker. This is not a normal. This is not somebody going for a hike. This is like an average person would not do the sort of hiking you do, correct?
Well, no, but in the context of it wasn't like climbing Mount McKinley that day either.
Right.
This was going out for a walk in the park, as far as the other kinds of things that I was doing at that stage of my life. But it was a 15-mile hike. I was prepared for that, and I had equipment in order to negotiate a rappel. I was not expecting to see anybody else, but I came across two young women, as they're portrayed in the film, and that we were together for a short time. They left, and as several of my friends have teased me over the years, that next time go with the girls.
Right.
But I continued down on my own then and got into a section of this canyon, and this is not like the Grand Canyon that's so huge, but it's rather like a 3-foot wide slot canyon. Right. Imagine the bottom of an elevator shaft, like a sunken hallway, and I'm negotiating a short drop off, and in that moment then I dislodged this quite large boulder that is falling from my head, and I'm underneath it. I try to get myself out of the way, and right in that moment, it ensnares my right hand and ends up settling between the two walls of the canyon that are just barely wider.
I mean, did it crush your hand?
And it crushed my hand. It had me trapped there, so it was inextricable. I couldn't move more than just a few inches.
Show that picture. And these are pictures you took yourself. You had your camera with you. So you documented this whole thing.
Yeah, I was saying goodbye. I mean, in those pictures, and I had a video camera that I was using to ultimately to say my will and testament, really, to my family. And it was knowing that I was going to die in that place. I went through all the different options of trying to get myself free, and was left. I was drinking my own urine as opposed to chocolate. I don't know.
That's the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah, I was facing my death very imminently in that spot, and to understand something I think very powerful about life was that when I turned that video camera on and I was saying my goodbyes, it was the love that I had of bringing my parents, my sister, my family into that place with me, and feeling the strength and the courage that those relationships had given me.
Let's show some of the video. This is the actual video you shot. Take a look.
My name's Aron Raslton. My parents are Donna and Larry Raslton of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them. Be sure of it. I would appreciate it.
And the soundtrack was live, too.
I mean, you'd think one of the orchestra people would help you out. So,
the French horn guy. Yeah.
So what did you use to amputate your arm?
It was a dull pocket knife, because I first used this knife to try to chip away at the boulder to get myself free without having to amputate my hand. And in the end, it turned that I was going to have to use that knife then to try to cut myself free. It was several days of attempts as I'm there through 5.5 days of being trapped. And I made several unsuccessful attempts at getting through my arm. But in the end, the knife was actually too dull to cut through the bones that were in my arm. So I was almost trapped as much by the knife as I was by the boulder. And finally, after a vision on the 5th night that I was there, I saw a little boy, maybe 3 years old, blonde hair, red shirt, playing in a living room. And I saw myself, like an out-of-body experience, interacting, picking him up, holding him there, and looking into his eyes. And I knew this was my future son, that I would have to get out of that canyon in order to someday see. And he gave me the courage to get through that worst night and then to actually solve the riddle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, as someone who picks at a scab, I have no idea. Are you a medical technician as well?
I have some medical training now.
Okay,
I did not at that
because I would
time,
think, why wouldn't you bleed to death when you get the knife in your arm?
That was certainly something I had to consider, and as I'm going into the moment where I've actually figured out, and it was a eureka experience for me, because the hell of being trapped for those 5.5 days, that it was ecstasy to be able to get free, to the idea of being liberated, of getting out of there, of getting back to my family. I was smiling as I realized I don't have to cut through the bones. I can actually use the boulder and bend my arm enough to break the bones. And I did this, and this is the part where everybody's like, I'm like, munch, munch, munch. But I'm smiling. I actually had a smile on my face, and as I then put a tourniquet on my arm, and to staunch the blood loss, and I start into it, and an hour later, after the most excruciating pain of my life, I'm free. I have my life again.
Were you blacking out as you were cutting nerves? The pain, was someone said you black out and then come to? Or?
No, I was there for all of it, and I felt every bit of it. And some of it, the pain, in fact, was so intense, and people have fainted during the film at this part of the film. But I think that the underlying message is yes, the worst pain I'll ever experience in my life.
Well,
but there was something.
So far, you're still very young.
Yeah. And I'll never go through childbirth.
You don't want to step on a bear trap.
You might trap the other arm. It could happen again. And that could be worse.
Yeah.
When I watched the film, actually, with my mom, she was squeezing my hand so tight that I thought I was going to lose my other hand.
Now, how much weight did you lose trapped there for 6 days?
Nearly, 30 pounds, and then the other maybe 8 or so that I left behind.
Wow. But this is not a diet you would recommend.
Yeah, not the Blue John diet. Okay. But it was the experience of, as I was getting out of there and I'm feeling this pain, that I also knew there was something far more important than that, and that was about getting back to my family. And I think that as we hear stories like this in life, and we wonder what would we do there, that it's for me to understand what motivates.
That's what I mean. It's such a great. I mean, I talk to people, and especially in this town, they have trouble with drugs, and I say, read this book, okay? This guy cut his arm off. I mean, I know you have a horrible problem, a terrible problem, but just that will to live. Now, the thing that I thought was fascinating, the part about the dream. Now, you recently married, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then tell me.
Lovely woman, Jessica.
Right.
Yes, and we met about 3 years ago in Aspen, where we were both living at the time, and it's gone just so amazing in my life, the turns that have happened, and now actually as I was talking about and describing this little boy, the vision of this that carried me through the pain that I experienced, and it's relationships is what's important, and there's no perhaps more powerful relationship than that of a parent and a child. And now my wife Jessica and I, she gave birth this past February to a little boy named Leo.
That's wonderful. That's good. That's good. Well, Aron, If you want to read the book, it's called Between a Rock and a Hard Place, and it's a very inspirational film. Aron, thank you, my friend. Aron Raslton. Be right back with music from Josh Turner right after this.